Right, this is what the computer looks like when it's finished. I'm going to walk you through the process right now. You'll see there's a couple of spots that just were too long and drawn out. I didn't think you needed to watch me for 5-10 minutes putting screws together, so I sped them up. You're not really missing anything there. So if you see a couple, if there's two spots that I really sped up, I think I 6x'd it. Um, you know, you'll see it and you won't be missing anything. But this is a computer. It came out great. Had a little hiccup in the middle. You'll see. Anyway, here's the video. All right, this is a different video. This unholy mess here is me trying to put a computer together for my grandson, Eric. Now, we're using some borrowed pieces. It's a CPU that I had from somewhere else. It's only an i5. It's a new video card, a new case, a new motherboard. Not new memory, but memory I had from my last PC upgrade myself. So it's 4 8 gig DDR4 RAMs. So we are going to put this all together and try and make a computer. And I figured I'd bring you guys along. So there's stuff everywhere, as you can see, screws and nuts and bolts. So we'll take you along on the journey and we'll see what happens. Will I get this? Will I not get it? Ignore that old monitor there. That's a test one. So the first thing we're going to do, here's the motherboard. Let's see if I could get it in camera there. So it's a new motherboard because I wanted DDR4 RAM. I had the chip. It's a, an i5 chip. I have the onboard hard drive, the M2 Ultra, and I got all the ports that I want. I got HDMI, all the video, plenty of USB ports. I even have a charging port here for USB-C. Over there. I got to learn to do this camera stuff. I've never done this before. 4 slots of memory was important for me. And what else was important? At least 2 hard drive slots and 4 more in the back. Oh, focus. Kill me, I'm new at this. So I got plenty of room for hard drives in here. So I got the case today in the mail. I got a new power supply. So I guess the first thing we're going to do is put all that together. The CPU fan, I got a little bit of old adhesive on there. I don't know if you could see that. It's raised a little, so I'm going to try and clean that off real quick. That should come right off. I did get new adhesive for the CPU fan. Let's see, here's the silicone adhesive. That's a thermal grease that goes between the fan and the CPU chip. Let me get this clean and I'll show you the next step. All right, I saved you the process of watching me clean that. But as you can see, it's not 100% clean, but that's fine. That's just old silicone. But if you see, it's level. You want it level because it's going to sit right here on top of the CPU chip. Focus, right? So that's going to mate up against that, and then it screws into the motherboard there. So you need a flat surface. And we're going to put a little silicone in between there. We move some stuff out of the way. Bring the case over. Now the first thing I want to do, I took all the case screws out already. Can you see this okay? Yeah. Maybe we'll angle a little more. All right. So here's the case cover. That's a good spot right there. And just so you know, that fan, just wipe it with a towel. You don't want to put any chemicals on there that's going to get on your CPU chip. Looks like we got, that's twisty tie and silica gel. Oh, we got screws and wire ties and all kinds of junk I really don't need. So the first thing I want to do is see how the motherboard's going to fit in here. So we're going, and you can see this all right. So this is going to go in here like this. Now I want to see if there's screws for that CPU fan to screw down onto. So right here you see 4 screws. I got to see if there's screws there or if I got to put something down. So we have mounts for the motherboard itself. Not a lot of them either. I got 1, 2. That's not ideal, and where the fan goes, it's going to stick right through. So we had this, I had this test set up in an old case. So we'll go through that with you quick. If you set this down on metal, fine. Don't bend the pins on the bottom. You bend those pins or break them and you're in big trouble. So gentleness is the key. Do I anti-static myself? I haven't worried about that in years. You know, it's worked for me. I never worry about it. So what I'm going to do here is this fan's going to go in, and you gotta, this is the power supply for it, so you got to see where that plugs into the motherboard. And if you see, let me show you up close. Right up there, it says CPU fan. Right here. See if I could get that any closer. You know, mono motherboards are a lot easier. See, right here, right, no, here. CPU fan right there. So that's where that power cord's got to plug into. So when I put this in here, right, the CPU, it's going to go on there, and the fan wire is going to have to plug in there. So you know which way to align this whole thing. So, since that's going to go through, it's going to be in this big empty cavern here, I don't have to worry too much about nuts and bolts and things. So the first 2 of these are hard. Now, I'm using these little pieces here. I don't know if you can see that. You know, they're really meant to go into a case, but they fit very nicely. I've test fitted them on the CPU fan. I will need something to set this on. So we'll go like this. I will get my handy dandy red screwdriver. So that one's going to go in there. So I want to just start that screw on the bottom here. I don't want to tighten it too far because you see the whole thing is crooked. So the first one I want to get is the opposite corner down, and then the whole thing will be level. So I'll get my next standoff there. I should probably use a nut or something. I am not, first of all, any kind of expert on building computers. I do what's worked for me. I've been building computers longer than I'm willing to admit, and they always seem to generally work. So now I'm pushing this other one in, and you see there's a little spring on it. As I push down on the spring, that screw is going to stick through. That's why we only wanted to start the other one a little tiny bit. So with my screwdriver, I am pushing in, and I got to tighten this one down, at least get it on decent. You see it all came apart. That happens a lot. Probably one of the harder things we're going to do today. Yep, you're watching me do this, and none of you has reminded me to put on the grease. So you have this touching that, and a lot of heat's going to go to that fan. What they have is a silicone thermal grease. And this is, I bought this off Amazon. I'm not recommending anything. This is all stuff that I just bought at random. You know, silicone grease is silicone grease. We're not overclocking this. Temperature is not critical for me. Gaming computer, yes, but my grandson is 9 years old, so we're not going crazy. Well, here's the pictures. Remove old grease. Oh, it's got a scraper included. Look, it had a scraper for me to remove the old grease. Thanks for telling me. Clean the surface with the cleaner. Oh, I got a cleaner in here too. This is a really nice kit. If any of you want, just put something in the chat and I'll share you the links. I don't want to share it. It's not an affiliate. This is no better or worse. It was a couple of dollars. I like that it's got all this stuff in there. That's a nice kit. Clean the surface, apply the thermal grease. Oh, and you get to spread it around. Let me see if I could zoom in. This is a really nice feature. I bought grease before and I never seen these type of instructions. Right on the side of the box, it's got all the instructions on what you should be doing. And zoom out. Zoom's a little tight. But it shows you, you know, to clean it. Put a little dab of grease, spread it around with the little spatula they gave you. So you should have a nice even surface of silicone when you get done. Don't tell you how to open the package. All right, top's off. So we're going to put a little dab on here. That should be plenty. One of the tools they gave, if you see this tool here, it's a little scraper to spread out the grease. You want just a really thin coating, but you want it to be solid. So as you can see, I'll have to do this a couple of times. And you'll get a feel. Always put less than you need, and then you'll get a feel for how much you're really going to need to get it done. You don't want it oozing out here like crazy. You want just a solid connection between that fan and the CPU chip. And as you see, when I tighten those screws down, it's going to really push it. So don't have to go too crazy. I mean, I've done this with a lot less grease. I've run this for short times on other computers without any grease other than whatever was there from 20 years ago. You could do it for short periods of time, but this is my grandson's computer, so we'll try to do it as best we can. Eric will be watching this, so I want to make him happy. Eric's birthday was in May, so we bought him a lot of the parts for his birthday. And I just got, you know, that is a lot of money to spend for a 9th birthday. I don't have a lot of money. I'm not spending a lot of money. This is reasonable priced, and I'll put in the description basically what it cost me, you know, outside of the things that I had. I'll get you what I can. All right, so that's on. We're going to go back to the fan again. Remember, we're going to line up the power cord there. So that's touching. So I can move this around a little. I don't want to unseat it before I get those screws down tight. And if you saw, there's quite a bit of force on this thing. What I'm doing is just putting, oh, here's my cleaning stuff. Oops. All right, so I got the first one on. I just want to make sure it's started enough where it's not going to pop off. Also want to make sure it's not stripped on there and in crooked. Which it feels like it's not going on quite right. Let me try a different one. All right, that was done. Going back to the screws, remember the little screws I said go in first? Those mid-size screws are not the right ones. I had to take them out. I had 4 that came with the motherboard. I pulled 2 more out of my little cup. Yeah, I'm not impressed with the motherboard manufacturer. But what you gonna do? So now let's plug in what we can plug in. Let me show you these cables if I can. All right, all these cables go from, here's your USB, goes down to these wires, and these control your other stuff. I'll show you that in a minute. But this connector here, you can't see it right here, says USB 3.0. There's a spot on your motherboard that'll say USB 3.0. There's stuff written right on the motherboard. This one says HD audio. There's a jack on here. I forget which one it is. Yeah, right here. It says HD audio. So you plug in what you can right away. There's only a couple of them. These ones here, you're going to have to look at the motherboard paperwork, because this controls, this one says power LED. So you know how when you turn your computer on, there's a light that comes on? That's that. Power LED plus, power LED minus. So you got a positive and negative. This one says power SW. That's for your power switch. If you basically touch those 2 pins together, that turns your computer on. Reset switch and hard drive LED, HDD LED. That's all stuff on the motherboard. I didn't see it just offhand. I'm going to plug in what I do know. And if you look on these pins, one of them is solid. Like there's 10 possible pins, one of them is blocked off. That makes it so when I go to plug this in, I can only plug it in one way. I can't plug it in upside down, and it just plugs right in. USB 3.0 is which one? Right here, USB 3.0. So this is up here. So I'm going to reroute this cable because I don't like it going across like that. I'm going to pull it back into the case. And the reason it's so big is there's actually 2 of them. One. Here's the other one. I'll pull it through the case here. Yeah, that should be good. I don't think that's going to be in the way. I'll probably regret that decision. And the same thing, this corner pin here, I don't know if you could see it. It's probably too far. The corner pin is blocked off, and there's a corner pin, there's a pin missing over here. So I can't plug it in upside down possibly. They've made these really idiot proof, and believe me, I'm an idiot. You know, modern day computers are much easier. So I got to get all these switches on. I'll pull up the motherboard in a second. Before I do anything else at this point, I want to get the power supply in. This is the power supply. It's basically where your plug goes in, and it's got all these cables to plug in all the things that require power. Your motherboard, your video card, all kinds of stuff. So I'm going to unstrap that. We'll get this lined up. Very simple. Fan goes down. You know, you never want to put the fan up against here. The fan goes down because it's sucking air in and blowing it out the back. It's just a matter of lining it up. You'll feel it just drop into place when you get it right. I clearly don't have it right yet. Or do I? Let me flip this over so you can see where the screws go. That's a little easy for you to see. Why is she not going in? Hot in the blue blazes. Huh. That's a fine kettle of fish. Looks like it's got some kind of adapter on there. Every motherboard, every computer case, all this stuff is unique when you build them. So you kind of figure it out. I'm going to take the screws out. I think there's a bracket on there. I'll let you know in 2 more screws. Yeah, it's coming out crooked. That means something's falling away. And you just stick your finger in to hold the bracket from falling. At least I have my 4 screws. Yeah, there's some kind of weird ass bracket here. I guess for different types of power supplies. Never seen that before. Leave a comment if you have and know what that's all about. Otherwise, this should just pop right up in here, I'm guessing. Where's my screw holes? My screw holes are on all 4 corners. So let's go back to that bracket. What in God's name are we doing here, boys? Ah, I see. That bracket goes on like that, and then the 4 screws are going to line up with the back of the case. Very strange. Again, that's a first for me. Don't know. Let me know if you've seen that before. And I guess I should let you watch. I generally don't like to use screw guns on these. This is something I could have used a screw gun on. But A, bad habit. I don't like showing you that. And B, I don't know where my screw gun is right now. Where's the screw hole? Need a little light myself. I see it. I see there's different patterns of screw holes, so it'll take different power supplies. I like modular. Modular home, modular computer. No, this isn't a modular home. I won't let you see the rest of my home. It's a mess. Some say hoarder. I don't. I just have fun. Come on, screw going. Yeah, that's what a screw hole is. Now, that should go in there. Couple wires in the way. Yep, that's right there. I'm going to pause it. You guys don't need to see me screwing stuff in. All right. That is in. I may or may not admit to having put that bracket on upside down. We don't talk about it. What happens when the camera's off stays with the camera off. First cable I put on is this big guy. A little bracket here that'll clip it into place. And I don't know if you could see the edges on some of these are curved, so this will only go in one way. Do not force it. This is your main power supply for the motherboard. Yep, that first time I had it upside down. It's going in. Now you see the edge of the motherboard is not really that secure, so you see it moving down, you kind of wiggle it. Again, don't crack the motherboard. You could kind of put your fingers under here if you want to give it a little more pressure. Alright, so now we're up to powering the motherboard. First thing you want to find is a flashlight. Okay, right over here in the corner is an 8-pin power supply. You'll only have one of those. If you bought the wrong power supply, well, actually I have two of them. I take that back. Alright, I have two that say PCIe and one of them says CPU. Now that's going in the CPU one. Yeah. PCIe is your video card, just in case you know. Alright, we'll clean up these wires later with all the little wire ties everybody gave me. So that's in. Speaking of video card, this is probably my most expensive purchase. I got not the greatest one, but a decent, iSurix I never heard of. But got a nice cooler on there. It's got 2 fans. Doesn't need any extra power like that port was just asking for. You can spend as much money as you want on a video card. They're all worth it. You get what you pay for. Like I said, this is 9-year-old gaming. It's not, if I was seriously gaming, probably nothing I'm using here would have gone in. I would have used a i9 processor. I would have, let me show you this part. This little cover here opens up these brackets on the back. I would use an i9. Motherboard is actually a good motherboard. That'll take an i9, this motherboard. I probably would have bought a slightly faster one. But this goes in. What you want to do, pull this little cap off, plastic cap. This is going to go in here, like so. I always do the video card next because I want to see how many of these knockouts. This is taking the first 2 knockouts. That piece is going into that slot. Actually, I got to get the motherboard connectors done first. Let me pause this. I'll get the manual for the motherboard. And we're back. Didn't take me anywhere near as long as I thought. Comes with drivers, by the way. I don't always need them. Windows usually takes care of it. comes with, this is the box it came in. It's just one I bought off Amazon. And here's the book that I was talking about. It tells you where all those silly little pins go. And if you scroll through the book somewhere, it tells you where ports are, tells you where saw all those wires. This is the diagram for the system panel header. So you see all those little pins there? It says like HDD, LED. Pretty much, I got to find that and I got to match. So I'm going to take all these wires, and if you saw on there, it says, and again, I'm going to pull that out. I don't like how they routed this. Probably regret that later. All these pins right here say power LED, you know, there's a plus and minus, power switch, hard drive light, reset light. Those plug into these pins here. Stop doing that on the motherboard. Pausing the video because you're not going to see me do that. Hold on. Let me get that done. All right, that is done. I'll see if I could show you. If you look straight in here, let me get the light on it. All right, those pins all plug right into the motherboard there. Power button is probably the only one you really need. The other ones are just lights and a reset button. So if you're ever not sure, you know, how the alignment goes, you could test the power button, and if it turns on, you know you got it right. If it doesn't turn on, keep trying. These books and stuff, if you don't have them, they're available online. If you have an older motherboard, you can look it up. The manufacturers usually put it out there for you. They're around. Honestly, if you don't have the book, it's easy to just buy a new motherboard. But we won't talk about that. So now here's the knockouts. You see it's a crosshead there for a Phillips head screwdriver. It's called a knockout because you just knock it out. Kind of push it in a little, get it started. And it takes two for that video card was wide. Once you get it started, you grab it with your hand and you can work it the rest of the way. Just kind of jiggle it. Do not cut your hands here. I recommend gloves. I have cut my hands plenty of times on these things. Again, this is for entertainment purposes only. Don't listen to me because basically I'm an idiot. Just wanted to share my experience with you. Because it's a fun one. You don't get to build computers too often. My grandson's going to have a ball getting his own computer, gaming computer. This video card is what really makes it. If you look up specs, if you look up, you put the model number in, AMD RX 580, right? If you put that in and say, is this better than the other video card I have? If you type in AMD 580 versus, you know, you just do VS and then your other model, there's a website that comes up and tells you which one's better and how much better it is and how much faster it is. You know, there's all kinds of websites that clock that. Oh, before I lock it in, this thing here also locks it in. See this little tab here? This little tab, as I'm putting this in, it's locking into there, so it doesn't come out easily. There we go. That's in. You got to get it straight or else the tab's on the front. Let me move it back so you can see it. If the video card doesn't go in kind of straight, nothing's going to go in right. I think we're in. What you want to do is you just check to make sure it's flush and level, which it is. And look, here's a power supply for ATX. Have we seen that connector before? I'm sorry, PCIe. Yes, we have.
You could probably see a little better how some of these corners are rounded. This will only go in one way. Like if I try and put it in that way, it's not going in. If I flip it around, it's going to slip right in. And you plug it in, and that's giving your video card power. It only gets so much. The motherboard is mostly for data transfer. This is power to it. Some video cards have 2 connectors. Now you see this thing is flopping in the breeze here? Remember those big screws I said are useful for a whole bunch of things? These guys? This goes right in here. Oh, there's your video card. So it's got one HDMI, 2, I forget what they call these. DP. It'll come to me later. But you got that HDMI. Now remember, you can't use these and this together. You could use one or the other. So when you buy a video card, make sure it's got all the connectors you need. If I only had one on here and I had 2 monitors, I can't plug one here and one here. The computer will only recognize one video controller. So, how are we doing, folks? We almost done? I want to see if there's a way to mount this on here. These holes definitely seem to line up. Let's see what we see from the other side. We're pretty close to getting this fired up. Oh, can't see anything from the other side. What a manual is this thing? There's got to be a way of mounting a second hard drive in here. I'll look for that, but that's not important. That's just a second drive. I got one 480 gig, 480? 512 gig SSD in there. That'll be enough to turn on the machine and run it. I just like to give him extra space if he wants to download games and things. So let's review. We got memory, video, power everywhere. We don't have things like external hard drive. These are all hooked up. Oh, I gotta hook up fan here. There's a case fan here. Definitely want an extra case fan at least. And I have a few extra case fans I've been collecting over the years. This one should plug into the motherboard. Let's see. Chassis fan right here. That's 4-pin. This is 3-pin. We'll plug in. Just actually, you can't see it. There's a little clip on here, so. Get in there. Nope. See if I can stand it up so you guys can see what I'm doing. Right in there. There's a little clip. See the way this spot takes a clip? It'll go right in there. This is going to be more a sense of feel. Being able to see it. If you're worried you can't see it, guys, I can't really see it either. Sometimes it helps to just close your eyes. There we go. Closing the eyes works. So, if all these wires bouncing around, you don't want to hit, see the way that's hitting the CPU fan? That's bad. So normally I'll zip tie them up. I don't want to zip tie it now because we're going to do more stuff to this. And God knows if it's going to work. More? A lot of times it doesn't work on the first boot. We're hoping it works, but I'm not assuming anything. So that's tied up, that's out of the way, that's out of the way. I think we're ready to turn this on. What do you guys think? Should we just go for it? Wonder what that is. Tester. Interesting. There's an old saying, I have RFM, read the freaking manual. I never do it. I should probably. There's the box. It's full of pictures, so I'm not really reading anyway. Warranty information. We're going for it. Power cord? Where'd that power supply go? It's over here. I guess it stands up this way. No, I didn't know how it stands up till I just looked. So what do you need? You need power. You need video. Keyboard, mouse. Oh, we have more hard drive cables. Nice. Goes in my spare parts box. As you see, I have lots of spare parts. Alright, I'm pausing you so I can get my stuff together. Alright. I got my crappy monitor. Let's see if we can angle you up to see the monitor. Monitor, I got a really old keyboard and a really old mouse. I have Windows 10 on a stick. I'll put that in if it boots up for me. What do you say? I'm plugging it in now. We'll see if it powers on or smokes. No smoke. That's a good sign. Let's hit the power button. Which one's the power button? Anybody know? Alright, you remember where we left off? I was at a quandary about what happened. Turns out the motherboard had gone defective. Not the motherboard, the CPU was defective. Swapped out the CPU after all that, and everything's fine. F1 to continue. So it's all back together. I didn't need you to see that all over again. It was what it was. And we're at a regular Windows boot screen. Hopefully you can read that. There we go, that's a little better focused. So this is your first Windows start screen. Install now. This part should be relatively simple. I need my product key. Let me put that in here. Let me pause you while I do that. Don't need to broadcast that to the world. Alright, so I put the network key in. I hit next, 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 let it install. Didn't think you'd want to be bored by that. So let's continue the setup. Pretty straightforward. I use my software keys to buy licenses. It's pretty cheap. It's legitimate licenses. You could buy them. They're trustworthy. You get the license emailed to you the next day. You could get the Windows Media from their site. They give you a download link to download Windows 10. So it makes it very simple. If you're starting with a fresh PC, I recommend them highly. I do not get paid for them. I'm not getting subsidized at all. You know, I paid the regular retail rate. I actually bought a 10-user license. This way I always have a Windows version. But you could just buy one. That's no problem. And it's much cheaper than going through Microsoft. And Microsoft, a lot of times, will give you a disk, which I don't know of a computer nowadays that has a DVD drive in it. This is booting off a USB drive. There's tons of videos on the internet on how to make a bootable USB drive. Did I say DVD? Sorry. A bootable USB drive. There's tons of videos. You don't need me for that. Any one of them gives you the right way. It's a few simple steps. We're going to set up for personal use. We're going to use an offline account. Yeah, limited experience. Hit next. Offline account. Limited experience. They love to get your name. So this is going to be for Eric. Happy birthday, Eric. Password, let's see. And definitely don't skimp on the passwords. I could put a one-letter password in here. Oh, I put no password in there. I'll have to fix that later. It will make setting it up easier. I'll have to keep entering the password. I was just saying, don't skimp on the password. Use a secure password, 8 characters. I use, this typical upper and lower case. Oh, looks like my video card is installing itself. It'll come back. So Windows is actually running in the background. So if you see that everything got a little crisper, it's installing the drivers for Windows. I don't put any of this stuff on. Skip. And if you saw, I unchecked everything else. It's just stuff that runs. I don't even like Cortana. Stuff that runs on the PC that only slows it down. Keep that all off. I'll do another video. There's some good software I use for taking off the bloatware that's on computers. I've gotten it off other websites. Maybe I'll find it and send you the link. But I have it's a PowerShell script that turns off all the bloatware, clears your start menu. It's fantastic. I really won't have a lot of bloatware on this computer since it's a fresh install. If you get something from Dell or HP, they put tons of software on there that slows your computer down. Don't recommend it at all. The anti-bloatware turns off all the stuff, stops Edge from taking over constantly. I hate Edge. I am an anti-Edge person. I hate Edge. I'll never use it unless you drag me kicking and screaming. It's the worst browser in the world, and I hate it. What more can I say? I'm a Chrome guy. I love Chrome. Chrome's compatible with everything. Chrome is simple to use. And life is good with Chrome. If you see, I'm on a basic desktop setup. And we're done building the PC. So I'm going to do stuff like install, like I said, Chrome. I'll install Adobe. I don't think Office. He doesn't really need that right now. And we're going to install a bunch of games. The computer itself is still open. I have to clean that up. Like, my wire management is terrible. Let me see if I could show you that. It's down here. Let me go under the desk. Hard to see, but wires are everywhere. I don't have the case cover on. It's a mess. But that's it. The computer is done. Would have been done the first time if I had a good CPU chip. And we're on a Windows Start screen. So, happy birthday, Eric. All right, here's the final product now. This is the computer. It's got some cool, these are actually filters to keep the dust out. And if you see on the top here, I mounted a hard drive up top. There's a spot for one on the other side of this case. So the main hard drive is an SSD drive, not SSD, well, SSD drive. The second drive is a conventional drive, but it's I got the primary is 500 gig. The secondary drive is 1 terabyte. Let me show you on the inside a little. I have this just loose on here. Since you can't really see, I did order him some lights. Don't tell him. There's lights on order. They should be here Tuesday. No, 2 days from now. So this is what it looks like. You know, everything came out nicely. I did have to replace the CPU. I left that whole part out because it would just bore you. It took me an hour to figure out the CPU was bad. The other hard drive, let me see if you can see it. It's up and in here. Yep. There's the second hard drive. That's a regular conventional drive. That's a regular SATA drive. And that's about it. Video card is right there. Video card is running nicely. 4 8GB memory chips right there. 1, 2, 3, 4. So he's got 32 gigs of RAM. Computer is super fast. I put all because I had 2 drives, I put all his desktop icons. Let me pause this, I'll show you. So let me see if you can see this. He's got 2 drives, C and a D drive. C drive has all his operating system on it. Let's go back to his D drive. I put his Windows profile on the D drive. So if he saves things to downloads, his desktop, his documents, they're all going to the D drive. This way we're not going to fill up his 500 gig C drive so fast. And all his programs are installed on C. I've already installed Fortnite. That runs wonderfully. Runs faster than my computer right now. So it's a great PC. Let me show you a control panel. And let's go to System. Yeah, so you can see I got a focus. Core i5, 8500, so that's 8th generation i5 processor, 32 gigs of RAM. And like I said, I have the 2 drives in there. So that's a wrap. It's a very cool computer. Later. And as you can see, Fortnite is installed. Runs great.
this is what the computer looks like when it's finished. I'm going to walk you through the process right now. You'll see there's a couple of spots that just were too long and drawn out. I didn't think you needed to watch me for 5-10 minutes putting screws together, so I sped them up. You're not really missing anything there. So if you see a couple, if there's two spots that I really sped up, I think I 6x'd it. Um, you know, you'll see it and you won't be missing anything. But this is the computer. It came out great. Had a little hiccup in the middle. You'll see. Anyway, here's the video.